learn about rest and spread operator in JavaScript. So let's say I have function sum which takes an array of numbers and I will return, let's say, calculate sum of these numbers. So let's say sum equal to 0, then numbers dot for each number I will sum this, sum plus equal to number, and I will return this sum. If I call this function, say 2, 3, 4, 5, then you will correctly get this sum of 15, which is fine. But if I don't have array, I have comma separated values. So if I have comma separated values, this will fail because numbers is not an array now. But I still want to get this working. So how can I do that? Is we can use dot 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 operator, which is known as a rest operator. ES6 added this rest operator, which can be used to convert comma separated values into an array. So now when I use dot 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 numbers, this numbers is now an array. So without this dot dot dot, you will get error, numbers dot for each not a function. But when I add dot dot dot, you can see correctly get 15 as the result, because now this numbers is an array. So if I check for array dot is array numbers, here you will get true because that is an array. But if I just say numbers, you get false because that is not an array. So by just adding three dots, comma separated values are converted to an array. That's the advantage of using a rest operator. So this is a rest operator. Now let's say, as we have seen previously, let's say I have numbers array 10, 20, 30, 40. I am using array destructuring. So let's say first, second, third equal to numbers. So you will correctly get first three values, but I don't want first three values. I want only the first value and remaining should be in a separate array. So if I right now print this first, second, third, you will get those 10, 20, 30. But now instead of destructuring second and third, if I use dot 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 and I can say rest of the elements. So what will happen? Now the other things, all the comma separated values will be converted to an array. Now rest will be an array. So first will contain only the first element, 10, and remaining elements will be converted to array. So when I say print rest, you'll see first contains 10 and rest contains all of the other elements. So this rest operator you can use to convert comma separated values into an array. It's a really good use case. So if I just want first element and I want other elements to be an array, you can use this rest operator. But you need to remember that this does not change the original array. So if I print numbers here, you can see numbers remains as it is. It's still 10, 20, 30, 40. They are not changed. A rest contains rest of the element, but original array remains as it is. Now this I can use for objects also. Let's say I have user object, name Mike, age 30, it says salary. Now I am using the same operator but for the object destructure. So let's say from user I will destructure the name property and all of the others I will add it in the remaining object. Now when I say name and remaining, you can see name is Mike and remaining you get age and salary. So using this rest operator I have converted other properties of that object into an array. and if you check the value of user now, user will remain as it is. So this also does not change the original object. So if you see here, you can see user still contains name, age and salary. We are just separating name and remaining contains age and salary. So it does not remove that original state. But this is a great way if you want something to be removed. So from this user object, I don't want name property. So I can use this rest operator and remaining contains all the properties except name. So you can see remaining contains all properties except name. So I can remove age also. Now age and name are separate routes. They are the separate variables created. You can see name is Mike and age is 30. And remaining contains now only one object of salary. So this is a great way to remove any properties from the object but don't not change the original object. We are creating a new remaining object which contains all the properties except these properties. So you can keep going on what until you want that, but this is a great way to use the rest operator to get rest of the elements of that object or array. So this is all about the useful rest operator added in ES6. Now we'll learn about spread operator. So what is spread operator? Let's say I have again that user object, name, Mike, age, 30, salary, this is the salary. Now I want to create a new object or copy of this object. So how do you create? If you are using ES5 before ES6, you can create copy of this object using object.assign. Here you provide the target object which will be empty, and then you can provide the user. Now when I print copy, you can see you get exact same object, but it's not exact same object, it's the copy of that object because you are using object.assign. So this was the old way. With now ES6 added spread operator, you can easily create new object by just saying, I can just create a new object symbol and I can just spread out all the properties of user. You can see it's exactly same. Now using this spread operator, we are spreading out all the properties of this particular user object. So you don't need to use this object.assign, pass an empty object here. This is like a extra one, but with this now it's more flexible. So let's say I have this name, age, salary, and I also want to add is married. False. Now I'm spreading out all the properties of user. So name, age, salary will be there, and now I am adding is married property. So you can see all the previous properties are there, and I am adding a new property is married. So the advantage, you can add properties at the end or properties at the middle or at the before also. So let's say I have is admin property, is admin colon true. So this I am adding at the beginning, then I am spreading out, and then I am adding a new property. So you can see you have this is admin added before. Then you have all the properties of that user object. Then I am adding married, is married. You need to remember one thing in this case. So if you already have this is admin property, let's say this is true, let's say this is false. So what we are doing, this you are adding true, then you are spreading out that property, and then you are adding is married. So now this new object will have is admin as false, not true, because you are adding it true first and then you are spreading out so the later value will override the previous one. So you can see is admin is false, it's not true. So even though it's you are adding it as true, then you are spreading out, so it will override the previous value. So this is a great way to update any property in an object. So let's say previously before this spread operator, if I want to update particular age property, so what you need to do is you need to loop through that object. So I can say object dot keys of user dot for each user. So this will not be user for each key. So when I say object dot, so let's say this is the user, let's say this is the user, and when I say object dot keys of user, you will get an array with the properties of that particular object, only property, not values. If you want values, you can use values, you can use values method which only gives value. So now what I can do is I can use for each. Now this will be an individual key, and I can check if key equal to, let's say, age, then I will update that user of key equal to 40. Now what it will do, it will, if there is a age property, then it will be changed to 40. Now if I print this user object, you can see user has a now age of 40. So this was the old way of changing, ES5 way of updating any property. But with this spread operator, now you can easily update any property. So ESAdmin is already there. So I can spread out all the properties, and I can say ESAdmin equal to true. Now this will override the previous value. So previous value of this user object false. That will be overridden, and now ESAdmin will become true. So if you can see, ESAdmin is now true. So that's the advantage of using spread operator. It has made a really easy to update any property. So whenever you are using any update operation, you want to update any property, you can just use this particular way using spread operator. So I have list of updates need to do. So let's say I have updates. So I want to update name to Jerry, I want to update salary to something different. So this is update subject, and I want to update. So I can spread out the user object, I can spread out the update subject. Now this new object will have all the properties of user because I'm spreading out user, and then all the properties of this update subject. Now this user object already has name and salary. So the new values will override the previous values. So now this result will have name Jerry and salary 60,000, and all the other properties will remain as it is. So if you can see, this is the last object. So name Jerry, age, salary 60,000, and all the other properties will remain as it is, which is the original user object. So it will remain as it is. So this is a great way to update any property using this spread operator. So you can use this spread operator, really useful if you want to update any of the property. So there is one more use case you can use. So normally there is math.max method in JavaScript which takes comma separated value. So you can pass 10, 1000, let's say minus 100, and when I print this, get maximum value of this, but it only accepts comma separated values. If I give this in array, you can see you get not a number. So how can I give that? So if I have an array, I want to find maximum of those numbers. So what you can do is you can just use that spread operator. So let's say this is the array, and I want to find maximum of this. So I'll just spread out that array. You can see now you get correct 1000 because you are spreading out. So now this array will be converted to comma separated values. So the rest operator is used to convert comma separated values into an array, and now this spread operator is used to convert array into comma separated value. So this is useful in both object and array, but it's more useful when working with object, because you can easily update any property using this spread operator in JavaScript.